Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for coming in early. As it is still not 2:30, let us wait for a while before we start. I see some familiar names. Thank you for joining us again. Hope you guys had a good lunch. I had a very, very light lunch, just in case, because it's not easy to do seminar right after lunch, believe me. But again, thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us. Today with me, I have Charlene, my
Hello,
colleague.
everyone.
Yeah, she will be helping me to
Yeah.
look at the questions and answer in the Q&A box. And of course, to join me in our discussion about how to finish strong at your interview. So again, for those who join us for the first time or those that come before, you know that we don't share our slides. So if you see any slide that you want to keep or take note of, you are free to do a screenshot so that you can refer to it at your own time to refresh what you have learned today. And the other thing is, yes, our webinar do go into our YouTube channel, but it takes some time. So you're probably looking at a few weeks before it will be uploaded. So I think taking a screenshot will be the best option if you really need to use the information. If not, then you can always wait for a few weeks before it comes on to our YouTube channel. All right. So as we are still letting people in, just ask for your patience, sit tight, and think of whatever question you can ask. Please put it into the Q&A box, and we will try our best to answer them accordingly. I'm going to start in about 1 minute, regardless of how many people is going to be here. So I just ask for your kind patience again. Okay. Shalin, are we ready to start?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
good.
we should. I think we should start now. I mean,
Yes,
it's
it's
not fair for those
2:33.
people to come early. So
Yeah.
we shall begin.
Right.
Again, Shalin, anytime you would like to add anything, just feel free to come in, and
Sure.
let's have this a good discussion. All right. So for those of you who do not know us, I would like to a quick introduction to tell you what we do at our Careers Connect Center, right? So what we do is we help you to discover any skills or competency in your job search inventory, right? We also help you to explore the various job search channels that we have, and so that you have the most effective job search strategy. We also, together we can research about the labor market or the job trends that's going on, so that you know what is being hot now and what is not, and then you know what are the most competitive areas, so that you can be well prepared if you do decide to go into the job. The other thing that we do is we do have networking session, and with the COVID restriction lifted in a lot of places, so we do have events with various financial profession or financial institutions, so that you guys, the job seekers such as yourself, have a chance to meet up with the talent acquisition team of the respective institution or even the professionals. Last but not least, we strategize with you as we walk together in your job search journey so that we can enhance your employability. All right. So this is basically, in a nutshell, what you can do when you seek a one-to-one session with the career advisors here. Don't worry about how to reach us, because at the end of this webinar, we will be posting our contact so that you can make an appointment to see one of us. All right. I think with this out of the way, let's quickly go to the main reason why you guys are here, which is to know how to finish strong in an interview, right? So Charlene, you know that every time we have people coming in, and we always talk about, elevator pitch, how to start strong, how to answer those questions. And then, when the job seeker, even ourselves, when we hear, do you have any other question for me? We'll be like, wow, good, it's over. And we are like, wow, finally. But however, we all know that this is not the end, right? Because you're still in an interview, you're still being accessed. So you still need to finish well if you did start well. And of course, in this webinar, if you didn't start well, we try to give you some tips on what to do if you really didn't do too well. So all is still not lost. There's still a possibility, no matter how thin it is, to save the interview. You have anything to add?
I think, Lionel, you also have shared with me, what you're going to cover today, and I think today's session is going to be really wonderful, because I think we all have blind spots, including career advisors ourselves. And what's helpful for today's session really is to share with you some guiding principles. And also, I think Lionel has really thoughtfully put together some examples, and these examples are going to be helpful for us to have a rich discussion together with you. So this session is really meant to be interactive, and I'm happy to note that we already have good questions coming in for today's session. So we're going to have lots of fun, and everybody, we're here to learn together as a group, and I hope we respect everybody's views. Lionel and myself, I think we are here for you 100% for this next 1.5 hours. So yeah, over to you, Lionel.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you. Yes, this session, hopefully we will make it very useful, and you can apply it in your next interview session. Okay, so, as we said, just as you put in effort to prepare for those instances before the interview, I mean, as in at the start of the interview, likewise, we also urge that you put the same kind of preparedness, shall I say, when it comes to doing well for your interview. So the first step, as you say, is always prepare, right? So what you do is you need to research the company role, the company, the role you are, the culture if you can, and the industry, and if you really can, the person who interview you. Because to prepare well for the interview, actually, basically, if you have attended some of our earlier session, you know that it's a time to show evidence, that if I can take back what we learned in the last sessions, the evidence to know that you could do the job, you will do the job, and that you will fit into the company culture. And in order to do that, basically you need a lot of preparation. Am I right, Shirley? Good. The next step that you should do after you do your preparedness is to, find a connection, right? What is it that you have researched that will help you so that you will be successful in to show you're successful, to show what you have achieved during the interview? The next step is to focus, because at the end, as we said, to see whether you fit the company. I mean, besides whether you can get along with your future colleague, is what is the potential return on investment? Because if they want to hire you, basically they're looking to see whether, are you going to be able to contribute? So that is another thing that you need to show during your interview. And you need to drive the point home at the end of the interview, which we will touch on later during this session. The next thing we need to talk about is, as I said just now, show evidence. You need to show evidence that you will do the job, you could do the job, and you will fit into what the company has provided in their job description. Next step is, as much as you are prepared, you also need to be flexible, because being able to adapt is also one of the soft skills that interviewers are looking out for. Because in this world where things change so fast, where anything could go wrong at any minute, they want to see how you are, whether you can adapt to the changes, whether you can roll with the punches, as the words say. And last but not least, you need to be ready for all the different type of tough questions, because as you get deeper into the interview, you are going to get tougher and tougher questions, especially if you're going to be interviewed by someone who is higher in the company, basically the CEO, perhaps the CEO of the company or the head of the regional area, depending on the job scope. So I hope that you are prepared with all these 6 tips, so that when you go for your next interview, besides doing well in the beginning, then after this session, you'll be also do well at the end of this session.
I have a question, Lionel.
Yes, go ahead.
So
your question or somebody else's
my question, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
your question.
I think it's important that I think all these are really good pointers, as like a checklist kind of thing.
Mhm.
Do you think that there's still blind spots, as in preparing, going through this process, where I feel that I have already done the checklist,
Mhm.
are there still anything that I may be missing out?
I would say that most probably you would be, as you said, everybody has their blind spot, and this is what I would recommend to do. But I think if you are forever flexible and forever ready, you will be able to handle whatever that comes your way. So the key thing is, yes, you may try to memorize things, which I actually recommend you not to memorize word for word, but basically you've got to know the main points that you want to share, so that depending on your audience. Yeah, I'm glad that Shirley mentioned it, because it really depends on your audience, because what you're going to say to the HR person is going to be different from what you're going to say to your hiring manager. So it could be the same questions, but the way you answer it has to be different, right? That's why we asked you during the preparation stage, we mentioned that, if you can, research who is the interviewer, find out, right? If you can find out common grounds, that's the best, because people get along well. And I think, Shirley, one of the things that I didn't mention here, if you rightly mentioned, is, the likability index. Because, I think one of our colleagues likes to use it, whether, at the end of the day, likability is about 49%. So when you prepare so in such a way that you know that they will like you, because 49% of the interview is based on whether they like you or not, which is the fit part, whether you fit into the company.
Right. And back to when you mentioned earlier on about being forever ready, right? And we also have someone who also just ask about how to be forever ready. What's the general guide to being forever ready, or basically being ready, so that whatever circumstances that comes up, the person doesn't fall off and kind of let the nerves get ahead of them.
Yeah, so I would say there's 2 ways, the hard and the soft. I mean, the hard is basically you got to be ready, in the sense that if you do your preparation well, you research everything well, that is the hard one, the knowledge. I would say the soft is you need to be able to realize, be self-aware of what's happening. So if you feel that you have been rattling, perhaps not answering the question, you need to be able to aware and stop and press the reset button and start again. Or if you feel that you are not answering the question, you should be self-aware, again, stop and reset. And at the end of the webinar, there are some tips for us that we will give you to try to give you a chance to do the reset. So just hang in there when it comes to be forever ready, as we said.
Right, because we have someone who actually start the ball rolling, asking about, how do you maintain calm and composure, and obviously interview situations
Excuse
are
me.
stressful, right? I mean, we're
It
not
is
going to
very
hide from
stressful.
the
Yes,
reality of things, yeah.
yes. Trust me, it's also very stressful now doing this.
But ours is different, right? Because we're having a discussion and chat with our friends here,
Yeah,
and I think it's great. And maybe can we move on then? We will cover other
sure. Yeah.
topics that I know you have prepared for our friends here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, how to end strong. Basically, there's just three-step finishing move. When you watch wrestling, when you win, is when the referee count 1, 2, and 3. So we decide to also just put it into the three parts. So imagine when it happens, when they ask you any questions for me, that will be the first part. How you need to ask questions, and not just questions. You need to ask questions that are personalized or questions that are tailor-made to your situation. I'll give you some example later. Bear with me. The second step is after all the question and answer has been done, this is your chance to make a closing statement. I know, as we said earlier on, people always talk about elevator pitch, the beginning, but we very little emphasis on how are you going to close the interview so that you make an impression, because people usually remember the beginning and the end. And so opening impression is important. Likewise, the end impression is also important. I mean, like if you're going out on a date, you're not going to end the date in a very bad way, right? Or if you're going to meet your potential mother-in-law, you don't want to end it in a bad way too. So a closing statement is just as important. And many people, even including myself, during those interview days, I forgot about this. So I wasted this opportunity to make a further impression to the interviewer so that they remember who they just interviewed. Anything to add?
No, I think it's great. Really, it's being prepared and that listening. I think it's important about applying that listening during this interview process because that will, in a way, that also helps you to stay calm. I mean, if
Mm,
you
mm,
look
mm.
at it as referring to someone's question about how to stay calm and collected, is really to pause and listen. And this
Yes.
is a practice that I feel is a very awesome lifelong skill, whether or not you're going for an interview, because then you'll be able to pick up the subtle messaging or where that important area that you want to ask and where you do not want to ask. Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's been really awesome
Yeah,
in terms of,
yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned it,
right?
Shirley, because yeah, I don't think I mentioned that in the slide, and I thank you very much for saying it. Yes, because all the preparation that you need is to help you to formulate. But what the exact phrases or the exact words you're going to say, whether when you ask these questions or when you make this closing statement, is through listening, right? Because you need to recall back what you and the interviewer has shared during the interview, so that the positive things remain, right? So the closing statement, yes, it includes the positive things, the positive vibes that you guys have been feeling during the interview, and it's to set as a reminder to the interviewer of the good feelings, so that when they think of you, they only have a good impression because you make them recall only the good part. And how do you recall? You're right, Shirley. You need to listen. And listening do help calm your nerves, because then you don't keep thinking, what should I say next? What should I ask next? But you listen, it does help. It does help. Very, 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 very good. Thank you very much. Yeah. The next but last is after the interview, when you have left, when it's truly ended, then you need to follow up with a thank you note and a follow up. And we'll give you one or two examples on what kind of follow up email or even a written letter, written note could look like. All right. So these are the 3 steps we say that will help you finish strong when you are finishing up on your interview. All right. Okay. ask personalized questions. So how do we approach this part of the interview? Again, 3 steps. You'll find that everything is, we try to do it in 3 steps to help you remember. So focus, right? You need to ask question that is it right for me? Right? And again, you need to provide evidence that you fit. So this is the part where you need to know the question here about the formula now is you need to now fill in the meat because you have a skeletal kind of question that you would like to ask. But now is the time for you, as we said earlier, if you have listened and you know what went through the interview, this is where you give more evidence to say you fit them. And then you build, as you said, you elaborate on what you in the interview have discussed, all the things that you guys have shared during the interview, especially the good points, especially those times when they were nodding their head, they were agreeing with you, you know, these are the things that you need to now elaborate further to show that you fit, to show that the evidence is there that you could be part of their team. And last but not least, as we said, you need to tailor the questions, right? There's no point asking a question, right, that is so generic that anybody can ask the same question and get this exactly the same answer. So we try not to do that. So I mean, imagine yourself, if you're the interviewer and you ask them, is there any last question, any questions for me? And everybody asks the same question. I mean, you will be so bored to tears that you want to end this interview fast. Or you will just give a very quick answer just to, just end it. I'll just say something that I don't even need to think. Something just come out from my mind because I already decided I'm not gonna call you back because even though you may start strong, but you end off the interview with a whimper. You don't even show that you are ready for the job. Just to say that. So when you want to ask questions, that's why we said, focus on it, build upon it, and most important of it, tailor, make it as per. So if you do a tailored elevator pitch, you need to also tailor your questions that you're going to ask. Okay. So I'm just going to start off with the first question that people always ask. What are your expectations for me in this role? I mean, this is, I think, Shirley, if you agree, this one you always see on the Google, what questions to ask your interviewer? Yeah, ask this kind of question, what are your expectations? And what kind of, if you ask me this, when I was doing hiring before, my answer will be, in my head, I'll be thinking, didn't you read the job description? Don't you know what is expected of you? Or don't you know the role as a RM or a role as a risk analyst, whatever role that you're applying for, don't you know what is expected of you? I mean, if you don't know this, then I'm beginning to be suspicious about all the answers that you gave me previously. I mean, if you can do your job so well previously, and then you ask me this question, I mean, I'll start having question marks. It's like, why? Why are you asking me this? Don't you know what is expected of you? Right? So
Exactly.
so make it personal. I know just an example, as I said, right? So when we talk about researching the role, so if you are an accountant and as an accountant, there are busiest time and that there are deadlines and there are time. So you can use that as an example, like what I'm doing now. I'm just saying, as an accountant for a company size such as yours, I know the busy period is this, and it also depends on various companies' business cycle. So based on what we discussed earlier on responsibility of my role, because just again, if you have very good going on, then you can give several examples on what was said. And then you just ask them, so when will be the busy and what must I do in order to be successful in this role? So it's the same question, but you make use of the previous 3 steps. You focus, you build, and then you tailor it to your situation so that your question now they have to think. They'll be impressed in a sense that's like, okay, good. You know what an accountant is supposed to do, or you know what an RM is supposed to do because you have been one, you were successful in one, and you know what was expected of you in your previous company. And so it's only fair to see whether you're measured on the same yardstick. Because again, different company, different KPI. So this will make them think, okay, you're serious about it, you have done your research, you know what the job entails. So now you just want to know, for our company, how do we look at things?
Exactly. And I really like what you mentioned, really to build in that relatedness, and even if you are not you're someone, like we have someone who
Excuse me.
asks a question because I think he or she is not from the industry, and was invited for an interview, and hiring manager, sometimes they just want to test you in a way, right? They just want to test you because they obviously could see from your profile. Well, we have certain expectation when we are invited, but I think the least we should do is to expect that the hiring manager um, is going to consider you, because she see that, or he see that you are not from the industry and has invited you for an interview. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get the job offer. It's just a first interview, and you need to be prepared to ask a related question and in your best understanding, because suitability, especially for people who are not from the industry, you will need to be able to nuance and do your research, like what Lionel
Yeah.
has advised earlier on, and be able to customize into how strategic you are when you do your research, and how you craft the questions that you want to ask the interviewer. Yeah, because that will show your attitude. Not just the amount of research, it's actually about your attitude and your learnability, and that kind of I think traits or personalities, like private banking has a certain personality trait that you observed on just a quick search on LinkedIn, you can see, or even in corporate banking is a different personality, or retail banking is slightly different. So, the requirements may sound like it's the same, but that's that differentiation, and you need to do your research well to be able to see that slight differentiation. Yeah. Yeah, and of course,
Yeah.
how you present yourself, the way
Very,
you
yeah.
ask, if you're
Very, very,
slouching, your body
very, very
language is
true.
like that,
Very, yeah,
and you're
very, very
asking the
true.
question, imagine what would the interviewer think
Very,
of.
very, very, very true. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, Shirlene, because this is just an example. Yeah, but if you're a mid-career switcher, and this will be helpful too, because you can just change the words a little bit and say, I did my research and I know that as an accountant, this is what is required. And then you can ask, so for your company, when's the busiest period? What is the expectation? Is there overtime? Is there things like that, right? Yeah. So as I said, you know, in the beginning, we mentioned you need to research who the interviewer is, because this question that you're going to ask, if you're going to ask about expectation of the role, you need to customize it also based on who your interviewer is. Because if it's a HR manager, or if it's your hiring manager, you definitely would have phrased this question differently. So as I said, I know these are just examples, these are just guide to help you. These are not gospel truth. You fix it according to your context. You fix it according to your situation, because it is your question. It is your question that you want to ask. And you must let the interviewer know, why am I asking this question? Where am I coming from? It's not like I just search the top 10 questions to ask and I just ask, so that because I want this interview to be over. In fact, you shouldn't, if you're having a good time in this interview. Actually, you should try to prolong it if you can. And this is a chance for you, to really have another different discussion altogether, so that you show more evidence that you fit into the company culture.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, that is of course in a positive scenario where the interview is going fairly smoothly, right? But I think like the earlier one of our participant shared a question where it was not a very favorable interview session, and I think instead of letting it temper your motivation and your aspiration to be pivoting into that sector, take it as a test of yourself as well, in terms of how much do you want to get into that specific sector within the financial space,
Mm,
and how can you emerge stronger at the next interview. If you've been picked up one or two times, it goes to show that there's something that sparks with
Mm,
the HR or the hiring manager. So don't
mm,
let that, deter you, but pace yourself, because when you are pivoting, it's a medium to long shot game. It's not an immediate, like, hey, I want to pivot next month, 3 months later, I'll definitely get that, get in my ball into the court. So I think I hope that today's session so far could give you some nuggets of uh, guidance in terms of how you can better taper your replies and
mm.
stay in the game, really.
Yeah, correct.
Because
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
any
Exactly correct. This
mm,
is also a time for you to, as what if the interview didn't go well, the type of question you ask is also, another way for you to save the situation, right? To let them know that you did your research, you understand the role, but maybe somehow, some way you're nervous or something happened and you didn't answer the question, you didn't answer their question correctly. So if you can phrase your question based on that question that they ask you, this is your chance, is what Shalene said, your chance to save yourself, right? And what's the worst that can happen? You just use this as a practice and you move on to the next interview, right? Very, very good.
Lionel, we have one more question actually.
Mhm.
It's a little bit about this person has our friend here has actually gone for an interview and is being asked about his or her view on the compliance policy and all that. So what's your take on it? Like what kind of stance should this candidate look at and try to turn this around and ask more appropriate questions back.
I think for a compliance person, I would say one of the strengths that that person should have is the ability to interpret and to understand what the regulatory is, right? So, I mean, I'm not sure what question was asked. I'm not sure what was asked of you. If you were to ask a question about compliance, the first thing before you ask is to show that, you know, um, because it doesn't matter where you were, right? Because even in school, there is always regulatory and there's always compliance. So you can always start by giving an example whereby you were exposed to regulatory control or governance or audit, anything that's related that you need to comply, right? Then I mean, again, as I said, I do not know what they are asked of you. You can give example of how
Mm.
you
Because
perhaps
yeah,
explain
right.
explain explain to the person who is inquiring so that they can understand and they won't get angry at you for saying no.
Right. I
so
think
so so,
like
so
the question asked actually, Lionel, just want to share with you is that
yeah.
actually I think it's the common question, like, especially if you're at a certain seniority level where you'll be asked on your views on whether it's compliance policy, communication policy, or risk policy and all that. I think what you shared was very helpful, right? And in terms of answering such kind of a question, how you take back kind of like the control of the conversation in that sense
Yes,
during
yes.
the
I
conversation.
think that the key thing is you need to let them know if you're being compliant, you need to let them know where you stand, right? Because compliant is actually no black, no gray. It's either black or white. And you need to be able to show that you know where you stand. You can be able to explain, to convince and persuade you know the other party that what is being regulated is for the greater good, so to speak, and perhaps you may suggest ways for the person to present his or her case better, such that it will be compliant to what the government say or what the company says, so that you can get a tick mark on the project that you are offering or the things that or the person is proposing. I think that would be as we yeah. So
Yeah,
as we said,
awesome
we are
advice.
not really compliant people, but for us as coaches, we do have to have our code of ethics and things like that. And so we need to also be compliant to those things. And so if someone were to ask me about that, then I will refer them to all this of the ethics that I have to upheld and to explain why I cannot do this or why I cannot do that. So that's where I would do it, right? But for, as I said, make an appointment to see one of us. We can discuss so that you can have a better answer when it comes to this type of situation. Okay, so I want to quickly move to the second type of question that you may want to ask, especially about the industry. Again, if you ask about this question, people, the first reaction will be, why didn't you do your own research? How come you do not know? Why are you asking me? Right? If you are applying for this role or you're applying for this industry, these are questions that you should know the answer to. So are you testing me or, why? Perhaps you have a very good reason for asking. So that's why I said, make it personal, right? So give an example, perhaps, right? As I said, to show that you did your research. Any latest news or anything that's regarding to this question, you let them know. And then you ask them, how does this affect my role? How does this affect, my position? Or how do you feel about it? So again, it's the same question, but this time you again focus, you again elaborate, and you make sure that this question is all about you. Why are you asking this question? Why is it so important to know about opportunities in sustainability? And how does this role play a part in this opportunity that you see? And this, because if you ask a question like that, then the person would, at least take some time to think about it before they answer you. Because this question is not your typical question that every other every other interviewee will ask. So this is another suggestion, as I said, that you could use. Do your research. Find out what's the latest news about this. If it's directly about the company itself, then it's even better. Then it shows that you really want to join this company. You really did your research. You find out what's the latest news about this company and how does this news affect your role. So it shows that you're really eager to be part of the team, to understand the situation so that when they do hire you, you are ready. You're ready to assume the role because they really told you how the company is going to proceed based on this news that is being announced.
Yeah, and I really the example that you share here about, about this example of this candidate asking about green finance and all that, and this has been quite a commonly asked topics from our candidate. And coincidentally, we have someone who asked about how do you show passion, interest, in this kind of
Yes.
trending topics, right? Or I'm interested in fintech, right? So then how do you actually demonstrate that? So similarly, I think this example from Lionel, it's very helpful to help you to unpack actually to show your interest and your passion in whatever field, whether it's a TIFIP fintech kind of tracks, because TIFIP has like 8 tracks for you, and I'm not sure what track you come from, but if you want to demonstrate that, then you can use this as an example to demonstrate, really your own research, because whatever field that you want to go into, and from the hiring manager perspective, they want to know what they want to do actually at interview is really assess your level of interest and passion. Because if you're not able to even articulate that and ask related questions like the example that Lionel has shared, then it gives not a very good impression that you may not be able to stick to the job or stick to the program when the pressure is high and that's test or exam coming up and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I like what you said because these are questions that somebody do ask. How do I show passion? Well, you show passion by showing that you do research. You show passion by showing that you're reading, you're up to the date on the news about the industry, about the news about this
Yes.
this area.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I think
I want to highlight, sorry, Lionel, that sometimes some of the examples, of course, we share seems a little bit high level. And for those who are applying, say, like for TIFIP kind of tracks, you would probably say that, hey, I'm not so high level, right? Then how I'm going to ask this kind of question? Well, in fact, I think the hiring manager are not expecting you to be high level because you're not
because
going to
it's
be
difficult.
hired to do that high level. This is an example. So you need to lighten it down a little bit more on what would it mean, right? Like example, if let's say you're interested in this very popular track, say cybersecurity and interfit, right? Then what would it mean for you if you're interested in this field, you've probably taken some certification, then you need to shape your answers more related to your interest at what you think your scope might be, and it is no longer a legit excuse to say that, oh, I'm not being in this job, so I wouldn't know. Well,
Mm,
sorry to tell you this, Dr. Google has a lot of job postings out there for you to research to get some understanding. Like similarly for career advisors like myself and Lionel, we're not subject matter experts of every field, but we will do our necessary research and preparation and ask subject matter experts that we know of to be able to help
mm,
you.
mm.
So then back to you in your hot seat as an interviewee. So then how are you going to be preparing your questions to sound like you really are 100% committed, that you are interested in this role, you're interested in this TVIP program, and you want to get that hot seat, that few hundred seats that's available every year and is very limited. So you need to do that. And are you willing to do that? If you're not sure, you have done something, not very sure, you can always reach out to us. Our career advisors service here is complimentary for all Singaporeans in PR.
And PR. Yeah. Yeah. I like this where this is going because it's true. You need to show that you are the difference because as what Charlene say, even not even TFIT, any job, usually you have about 100 people to apply. Then after that, they narrow it down. So if you are at the interview, maybe you are down to about 20 people. So you need to still show why you are different, why they should consider you, and asking questions at this stage of the interview is one way to differentiate yourself. If someone didn't attend this webinar and they still ask the top part of the question, then when you ask the bottom part, you show that you're different. You show that you did your research. You show that you know what's going on. You know what's happening in the latest trend, the latest happening in the industry. And so they will definitely take a closer look at you because you will present a less learn. You don't have to learn. You quickly could assume the position because you are passionate and you have immersed yourself in this. So this is one way to give evidence. Again, as you say, give evidence that you fit. You will do the job, and for sure, there's the evidence to say that you will do the job because you are showing that passion. You are showing it that you want to be part of this. So you are actually giving evidence that you will do the job. Very yeah. Shall we move on? Okay.
Yep, let's move on.
The third type of question that you may want to ask is about this. This is a very common question. What skills can you seek in this new hire? And again, if I'm the hiring manager, my first impression is, didn't you read my job description? Wasn't it good enough for you? You mean you don't know? But however, if you tell them something like this. Give an example. Say that you trawl through their career page to understand everything, and you pick out what they talk about. Because some of them on their career page, they do mention what type of candidate they're looking for. So you tell them, I noticed that these are the things that you guys get mentioned, right? When it comes to this role, right? And this is your time to shine again. You re-emphasize to say that you already have all these skills, right? And then you ask, is there any other one that's not written that you should be mindful of? So again, it's the same question, but instead now you show your passion, as we said, you show that you can elaborate on what was discussed during the interview, and you re-emphasize to them that you are that person that they're looking for to show the evidence that you fit, right? So that's one way again to give context to a question that you can find on the top 10 questions to ask your interviewer.
Yeah, I think these are a great example in terms of the skills and experience part. And it's very common that some of the candidates that come to us, they sometimes even have challenges in terms of spotting what kind of question they should ask about skills. Because a lot of time, in particular for people who are pivoting, say, to data analytics, right? It's the ability to use Tableau, Excel VBA a skill, yes, but it's not enough to say that you know exactly how proficient you are in using it. So like example, it's very common that the requirement states being able to use analytical tools, right? So then during interview, of course, they will ask you some of these questions, and you can ask in terms of if you are very confident really of your skill sets in using certain analytical tools, then you should expand, like using the example that Lionel has given, like on what other skill sets, look at how you could break it down further in terms of what you can do with Excel VBA or
Yeah,
Python and
this
so
is your
on.
last, so-called
Yeah,
your last chance
in
to
the in
show
that
that
sense,
you are
yeah,
different.
really, it's
Like
like
you
one
know how
take,
to use,
it's like
yeah,
just one take.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know
you
how to use it, and this is your chance to let them to re-emphasize and give an example of how you use it in your
yeah,
job, in your
that's
current
right.
job, or how you will plan to use it if
Yes.
they when they hire you, right? So again, instead of asking a simple question like what's the skill, what's the experience you want in a new hire, you tell them that
A
you
bit more
have the
specific.
skills.
Yeah,
Yes, you tell them
yeah,
I have those skills. I
yeah,
know what are the skills that's required. So I
yes,
can do the job and I will do
yeah,
the job, you
yes,
know. Just
yeah. And I've
so
come
so I'm
across
just want
candidate, yes, and,
yeah.
and I think I have come across candidate like who went for interview, say, for a marketing role, and in established firm, and what helps the candidate actually to nail the job is more because she asked more targeted questions related to programmatic marketing, which is her forte and her interest. So you see how she's able to, in this example that I share, this candidate is able to infuse her motivation, interest, and passion for programmatic digital marketing or even
Mm,
marketing technology,
yes.
into her question. Now, of course, that's in
Excellent,
scenario
excellent.
that things kind
Correct.
of flow,
This is
right?
again,
Yeah,
as I said, this part of the interview, a lot of people just let it go. It's such a waste. This is part of the interview that you can really come back strong if you made any mistake, because the questions, the floor is yours now. You can direct what kind of questions now you want to focus on, what kind of skills you want to focus on, so that now you make a difference. You're finishing strong, as we said in the interview. You're not quickly trying to dismiss. I want to go back, go back. Are you ready? Finish ready. No, this is your chance to further impress your interviewer. Can you give just one last example on questions about fitting in, right? So if you're going to ask this kind of question again, it's kind of like too generic. So I would suggest that you again give an example, give a context, make it personalized, right? Tell them already that you can get along with this type of places, this type of people, right? And then you ask them, then you ask them how to fit in better based on successful people that they think they have in their company. Because you could follow up this when they give you the answer. Again, you could follow up by saying, yes, actually, I do have all these things that you just mentioned. And you give an example or two on why you have all these. So if for example, you prepare all the answers, hoping to answer during the interview, and for whatever reason, you never had a chance, you don't have a chance to show this. This question allowed you again to go back to your strong points, go back to your strengths, to let them remember, to recall. Because we said you want them to remember the beginning and you want them to remember the end. And this type of questions that if you're going to phrase it that way, give you an opportunity to, like we say, chop, chop, to say, yes, I have all these skills that you guys are looking for. And I have examples to show that I am. who this person is. So this will be, I mean, there are many questions. So as I said, I chose this four because these are the generally what people will ask when it comes to the end of the interview. For sure, you may have other questions that you would like to ask. I just say, when we show the connect to us slide, make an appointment to see us, then we can customize these questions together. Right, the word is together. We're not. I don't think Charlene is going to give you, just a standard answer. No, we have to work the answer together because this is based on your situation. It's not based on my situation or Charlene's situation. It's your situation. So we can work together, to come out what kind of questions that you would like to ask so that you can impress the interviewer, or have a backup question in case, as what someone mentioned, right? If the interview didn't do well, how can I save? So we can prepare one or two questions on this so that you can refer back to those and try to save the situation, shall we say. Anything to add, Sharon, before we move to the second step?
I think it's great. Yeah, I think this is good.
Okay, so we're going to move to the second step, right? On how to, well, before we do that, okay, these are the questions that please don't ask, okay? Don't ask them about salary, especially not when it's the first interview. So don't ask about salary. And I know someone's going to ask, what if they ask me? Okay, there's a time for another discussion. But the rule of thumb is don't touch on any number at in your first initial, right? When it comes to answering questions on what if they ask me, I think if you attend our earlier webinars, we really try to answer. Again, you make an appointment to see us, that we can always address the situation together, all right? And don't ask about benefits immediately too. Don't ask about, because you're not hired yet. It will make you look very, very materialistic if you're going to ask questions about salary, about benefits, and things like that. And don't be a smart aleck and say, do I have the job? I know some coaches do mention it, to show your confidence, just ask them, do I have the job? But in general, I advise you against it because you usually will come up too arrogant or too aggressive, especially after the first interview. So, and last but not least, in general, please, 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 please don't ask questions that Mr. Google, Dr. Google can answer for you, right? So if you were to do that, it doesn't look good. So if you have done research, you will have found the answer. Or worst of all, if you're going to ask question that's appearing on their web page, that one is really almost like a cardinal sin, because if it's on their web page and yet you're asking it, I mean, example, you ask, if you get interviewed with Nike, you're gonna ask them, what is your logo? What is your what is your mission? What is your, I mean, they'll be like, huh?
Communication policy.
Yeah. So, so these are questions that, we tend to advise you to avoid, especially only after the first interview.
Yeah,
right?
I know we have a question. Someone, our friend asked actually, could you, can they ask about work-life balance in the first interview?
Yes, again, you need to make it personalized on why you need to know. Like the first question that we ask can sort of touch on work-life balance, because you talk about when are the busy period, right? Is it always busy? And if it's always busy, you give a reason why. It could be, I don't mind working late, but I need to make arrangement. So you can always say that, I need to make arrangement. So these, as you said, try to make it your own to know why you want work-life balance. But in most company, this question is usually shouldn't ask. But I cannot fault you, because sometimes to you it's very important, because maybe you have young children at home. Maybe you have elderly parents at home, or you need to take care of certain things. So you need to ask. So if you need to ask, just make it around you, why you need to know about this?
I think usually we will recommend to take a more, neutral angle to ask about it rather than using words like work-life balance. I think in today's context, it's more about flexible work arrangements.
Yes,
And as
yes, very good, very
professional,
good. Yes.
right, we are committed to give our best and 100%, and being trusted to adopt flexibility. And I think earlier on, I know in his first slide, right, or two, right, he talks about flexibility. So again, I think those guiding principles are very important. So I hope that could be something that you can check when you're thinking about what to ask, you can ask yourself in terms of what kind of attitude do you want to display when you're asked such a question?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
in one of our seminar, some the one of the guiding principle is you are what something like you ask a question, it tells something about you. So if you want to ask a work-life balance question, it tells something about you. I mean, maybe you are an avid marathon runner and you need time to do your run, right? So you need to know, how is the working arrangement and things like that. So you let them know, I'm an avid runner. I mean, if as long as you tell the truth, right? Give them a reason why you need to know this. Most hiring managers are understanding, and they will answer you. I mean,
Yeah,
if certain job really, due to the nature of it, you don't have, you really don't have the time or whatever, then you have to ask yourself, should I want to work in this type of job? If you really need the the life, so to speak, right? Because I can tell you there are certain jobs, definitely don't have, because maybe it's a rotating shift work, maybe is a high security work, or a very important life-saving jobs and things like that. So whereby really you really need to be committed to the role. And so this is also a time for you to discover, should I be applying for roles that are like that?
Yeah, and I think it's great that you mentioned about that, the impression that we want to make, because um I mean, if the interview, how do you ensure that you finish strong is also you maintain that strong, presence that you get at the interview, yeah, so
Correct.
that you don't lose this attention that you are getting from the interviewer. Yeah, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
noticed
it's
that,
very true, very true.
right?
Yeah,
We
because
noticed
if you
that,
if you start off with a persona of very passionate about work, say, right? You're committed, yada yada yada, and then you're gonna ask a question like that. Immediately, you just pop the balloon, because they'll be like, "Hey, how can you say that you are committed? You are, ready. You're gonna give your 110 and best, and suddenly you ask me about work-life balance." It's not. So if you can, as I say, it's not wrong to ask the question, but if you can phrase it in such a way that it still supports what you have been saying to this point in time, then it doesn't make you look something else. Okay, I think we have to talk a little bit faster, because can we keep the question coming is very good, but we really need to move on. Okay, I know this is very long, so I'll try to say it. Okay, so if your interview is going well, right, you finish all your questions, and this is the point for you to make an impact. Okay, so instead of just thanking them and then shake hand and then bye bye, this is your time to do a less than 30 seconds closing statement, right? To show your appreciation, obviously, for giving them the time, but then you need to help them to remember what was discussed during the whole entire hour, perhaps, or 45 minutes with them. So you bring up things, right, to show them that you can add value, perhaps, or you are knowledgeable about what's going on with the financial products and things. Again, so this is, again, your time, your last chance, perhaps, right, to let them know that you can do the job, that you will do the job, and you can obviously fit into what the company has decided this role is supposed to be. So bring that up again in closing. Like in this example, right? We talk about the things they share about with you, their plans, their things like this. So remind them that you are in line with that, right? Tell them that you could achieve them and let them know how you can achieve them, right? Because of your knowledge across various financial products, perhaps, you know, or give an example that has happened during the interview to solidify that you are the person they are looking for. So a closing statement is just as important as an opening statement when you first meet them. Okay, so this is an example if the interview went well and you can remember all the good things that happened during the interview. So if you are, as what Shirley mentioned, you have very little experience or you are a new careerist, then all right, then you need to talk about the potential, right? For this example, I'm just going to use a metaphor. Say that you're like an open canvas, and you're waiting to use your transferring field to make you a masterpiece such that you will be able to do the job. So because you don't have the experience, may not have the knowledge, then you need to count on your transferable skills. So in this example, I just use transferable skills, but you need to list down what those transferable skills are. And if you can, give example of you using it while in school or while in your first 2 years in the workforce or something like that. So this is a closing statement for someone who is new or to the industry, little or no experience. Okay, pivotal, you can use this example too if you want, but again, you need to rephrase it a little bit because you now have some experience in terms of work, so you need to beef it up a little bit to show, to remind them that you are not a fresh grad, right? That you come with the territory, you come with some experience. May not be in the same field, but you do possess perhaps the good negotiation skills, perhaps. You know, in any job, you need good negotiation skills. So this could be a time, if it's not mentioned at all during your during the interview, this is a chance for you to let them know. You know, you are hiring someone who is good at negotiating with vendors, good at negotiating with clients, and so this is a good point for you to bring up your experience that is useful for the role that you're applying for. I see you unmute yourself. So what? So what is it that you want to add?
Oh, I muted. Is it okay? Sorry. No, I was just saying that I just want to add that this example is great. There are people who are who likes to write in similar like lyrical fashion, but I think of course there are some others who are not. Especially I think people probably more in the technical side of things who like to state things as it is. And you just need to be yourself. But of course, don't be boring. Add in a little bit of descriptors to describe yourself about, what is your transferable skills, and how you envision that, especially in terms of that. It's so necessary, like listening skills that has been very helpful for you to break through bottlenecks in some projects and all that, and that you hope to bring this success into this new area that has been helpful, and you feel that is an important piece for this new arena that you're going for. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you hope to be given a chance. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that is something that's a bit more middle ground. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we got to quickly move. Okay, if the example, if you didn't do well, okay, so this is one example that you could do, all right? Fine, you can always put it down to nerves. Everybody is nervous during interview. Just admit it that you were nervous, right? So now, again, show them that you did your research. So having studied your company and the role, so you now tell them why you think you're still relevant, right? List the 3 skills that are relevant. And then if you hire me, show them that trust, just give them a recent achievement that you have done, and then say thank you. So again, you are now leaving them with a better impression about yourself because you reminded them of your skills that you have. You reminded them about the success that you have in your previous roles, so that whatever happened during the interview is just a fumble, it's just a one-off thing, maybe it's not your day. But this is one way for you to close the interview, at least to put you in a better light, so that they can still recall you in a positive. So this is just an example again. If you feel the interview did not go well for you, right? So this closing statement will help salvage the situation. And the last but not least is, I know there are people that could be senior here. So if you are a senior and you're doing leadership role, you need to emphasize your leadership roles. You need to remind them that you understand what it's like to be a manager, what's it like to be a leader, what it like to be a senior. So you give them examples of how you led your team, or how you bring success to your leadership. So in your closing statement, this is what they would like to hear, so that they know that you give them something more besides knowing how to do the job. You know how to take care of the team. All right.
Lionel, back to the earlier slide, we
Mm-hmm.
actually had someone who asked a question about, that if you encounter scenarios where, at the final stage, that as you're asking the question, you feel that the interviewer just want to end the interview, but you are, trying to ask more questions. So what's your take in terms of handling such kind of?
My answer would be, just be honest, in the sense that if you have taken too long, in the sense, because they also have their time schedule. So don't take it personally. It may not, you may think that they don't like you or whatever. It may not be that way. It may be because, there's a little bit overrun, and if they let this carry on, they may have to, the next person that is coming in will have to wait, right? So it may not be your fault. So don't take it personally. I would say, if you feel that is coming on, then be as we say, be adaptable, be flexible. Then take stock of the thing, close it with a closing statement, and there you go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lionel. I think,
Yeah.
and most importantly is to remember that it's not about you. Yeah,
Mm,
sometimes it's just time is of essence, and can you imagine day in the life of HR in the interviewing session through the whole day. There's certain evidence that they want to hear from the candidate, and if they have gathered enough information, what you're going to say subsequently, or more questions that you ask, is going to be just static noise. It's like, for example, you can ask everybody, right? If you come across an Oreo commercial, can you remember which variant was it, the last one that you watched? So this is a very good example, that to know when you want to end it nicely and just respect the space.
yes.
Yeah, I know it's not easy to let go, because it's
Mm,
interview opportunities is
yeah.
very precious and not easy to come by. But
Mm,
just understand, if you can try to understand that the interviewer
yeah.
themselves,
Don't take it personally.
they're probably going through some fatigue as well, and
Yeah. Don't
it's
take
really
anything
not
personally.
about you. Yeah.
Right. Well, don't worry, because after the closing statement, if you do a good closing statement, they do remember you. But there's also the step 3, which is the thank you and follow up. So there is still another opportunity for you to state your claim to the role. So make sure you contact the right person, please. Don't forget who interviewed you, right? And if you want, in your note, create a clear subject title if you want, right? And please proofread what you wrote. Okay, right? So in the thank you note, okay, you need to show your enthusiasm, as mentioned, give again the evidence part, reaffirm your interest, things like this. And then if you really need, ask them, when should you expect to hear from them, right? So again, you can also invite them to ask you any additional questions should they have time. So quickly, this is after good interview, this could be your thank you note, as you said, is working in the same principle as your closing, right? Remind them of the good things that happened during the interview, show that you can do the job and you will do the job, and how you can contribute. So don't just say thank you for your interview, thank you for your time, look forward to hearing from you, the end. And you just wasted your opportunity to, right? So every time, to me, is every time you have an opportunity to have a contact with the hiring, you should take it with both hands and grab it and try your best to reaffirm the good things that you have. Right? So this could be an example for you, if those of you who feel that it's a good interview and just want to thank them, this is how you can write your first thank you note. And again, obviously,
Question.
Let's quickly just say what is the bad.
Okay, we have a question, what if the interview is not searchable? Then how do I send this out?
Well, then you will have to, okay, number one is if you exhaust LinkedIn, right, and you cannot find the person. But don't get me wrong, this one can also be written to them directly, if you can find them on LinkedIn. You don't have to send to their company and hope that the company send to them, right? So if you tell me that some people may not have a LinkedIn account for whatever reason, which is kind of strange if you're a HR or assuming that if you cannot find the person, right, then you will have to write this note and hope that the person that contacted you from the company, be it a recruiter or the HR, will be kind enough to forward this message to the person that interviewed you. So this is an example. If it is a bad interview, again, give them a valid reason why maybe you didn't do well, right? It could be maybe you are not feeling well or things like that. Give a valid reason and then clarify what happened, right? So give it again, close it off by again reminding them that this could be just a one-off thing. Please don't write me off because of a one-off. Emphasize your experience, right? Emphasize the results that you produced thus far, so that this one-off bad performance in the interview is not going to, it's no good for them to write you off. That's what you're trying to do if the interview didn't do well. Okay. And some girl is going to ask, what is the timeline? And this is just a guide on what the timeline should be. And like what we said earlier on, if really you get ghosted, don't take it personally. Move on, right? Take whatever you have learned in this interview episode and make sure that you do better in the next interview. There's no point holding grudges, holding it back, whatever, and then it destroy your preparation for the next interview. So if for whatever reason that you receive no answer after 4 weeks, I think you should just let it go. Basically that's the song. Anything to add? Because I think this is the second slide.
I think this is a great, kind of guide and checklist in that sense. And also for you to look at managing fatigue during your job search process, because there's certain time for certain things for you to relook at. It's like you do your follow-up at work as usual. So not to spend all your time to track every day, kind of thing, because you will find that your mind will take a long time to unwind and look at other stuff. So I think this is a great sharing note in terms of what's the timeline, what are the follow-up emails and that you could send to the HR. Yeah. And also, if you do not get any response from the HR, it's not because they do not want to reply you, but sometimes they are also very busy and they can only respond to those who are shortlisted for the interview. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you're totally
don't let it affect you. Yeah, I know it's easier said than done. I grant you that, but you're gonna spoil yourself silly and wasted the next interview chance if you were to carry this in you should just let it go, because most of the time it's not your fault. It could be any reasons why they ghosted you. I mean, one of the for whatever reason, there could be better candidates. It's just, there are better candidates that they're interested in. So it is what it is. Don't let that affect you. Move on to the next interview. get what you learn what happened. If you feel that there's any obvious mistakes, don't repeat it. If you want to know how to avoid doing the same thing, perhaps you can talk to us and we can find out some ways for you to work yourself out of this, right? So that it doesn't become a habit, so that you can change your mindset or change the way you behave, so that uh, in the next interview you make yourself better fit for that role.
Yeah, yeah, and at the end of the day, also is about that chemistry that you have with the hiring manager as well. Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
you
you're
may have
right.
the CEO, but the one who works with you is actually the functional lead, right? So if you can't impress the functional lead, it's still no go. So make sure that you tailor your questions according to who you're meeting.
Yes, as
And
I
I
said,
think,
audience is very important.
yeah,
Just like
exactly.
you prepare your elevator pitch also. It's the
Hmm.
same thing. The audience is very important. Who are you giving this speech to? Who are you talking to?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think someone asked a very good question, I feel.
All right, let's
Someone
share.
asked about whether is it necessary to write these follow-ups, if they're interested in you, right? They will write to you. Uh, so,
I was
it feels like and it's a very, it's a very common thought that we come across as well. So what is your thought, Lionel?
as I said, my stand is if you have a chance to communicate, always grab the chance. If you have an excuse to communicate, grab that excuse. It's perfectly fine if you feel that they will contact you. But to me, even if you want to write something as subject to you, you just want to write it's always common courtesy just to write a thank you. I mean, if you feel that I'm not going to go through all this to rehash all these, um, it's your call, right? I'm not saying that doing this will guarantee you a job, right? It's just move you closer to it. If you feel that you don't need to, yeah, because you need to be comfortable with it. I don't want to create, a persona that you are not comfortable with. If you're not like that for whatever reason, then no. As earlier on, all our webinars, all our suggestion is, you just eat the meat and spit the bones. If you feel that this is not um going to work for you for whatever reasons, I respect that seriously, and then just don't do it. Yeah.
Okay. Can we, as usual, I think, guys, we will, for those who are familiar with our webinars, we'll be running the poll now. Yeah, before Lionel cover the last lap for this session. Please help us with the poll, okay? And so that we get a better sense in terms of the usefulness of the session, because you guys come from various backgrounds and all that, and we try to cater to everyone's learning goals as best we can. So please help us out with this poll survey. It's really very important for us, whether or not we will continue similar topics like these to help you along in your job search. Yeah, and of course, for those of you who have find that some of these tips are helpful, and you think that you're a bit shy, you might need some a private session to have a one-to-one, just reach out to us at our IBF Careers Connect at ibf.org.sg for an appointment. Yeah, and I noticed there's some requests for some slides to reflash again. Can I
Okay.
let Lionel to just finish this first, and then
Yeah.
I'll flash those slides after this.
We'll
Yeah.
just refresh
Thanks.
it for you to take a picture if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm almost done. I think this should be the last slide. Just some tips in general, some tips for you during the job interview, right? So if you can, obviously, ahead of time, find as much as you can about the job qualifications so that you can talk about how you can fit, how you can do the role, right? Again, another word, prepare. You'll find that in most of my suggestions always to prepare because when you're prepared, very little thing can affect you when it happens during the interview, right? So have good stories to talk about your abilities to do the job. And obviously, you need to rehearse some of the questions that you want to ask, or some of the things that you need to do. You may need to rehearse. And number two, don't panic, all right? If the interview is not going very poorly, just focus on what's at the point in time. As I said, reset. Don't keep thinking, oh no, what would they think? Oh no, I answered this badly. No, don't go back there. Just stop and reset, right? So prepare to adapt at all times, right? Don't try to hope that everything will go as planned, because our friend Murphy is always there. So you just never know that things like this may happen. So anticipate, right? But also be prepared to adapt, right? You are allowed, to you don't to when a question is tough, you're allowed to take time before you answer. You're allowed to break the questions into various smaller parts so that you can answer it carefully. So don't just immediately go head on and try to answer those tough questions, because sometimes not everybody can think very fast on their feet. Some people need a little bit of time to adjust. So if that's you, it's fine. It's perfectly fine to pause a while before you answer any of those questions. Okay. So these are just general tips that I think I just quickly put up. And of course, this is the contact that you can contact us, right? Our colleague will arrange you for an appointment to see one of us, so that we can help you in whatever areas of your job search that we mentioned earlier on the second slide.
Yeah.
So
We still have some time for questions. Just feel free to ask us. And maybe we have one question that for you, Lionel, about being ready, for impromptu calls, right? When we apply for jobs, right? Our friends here ask, and the HR calls back, and they like to ask you questions on the spot, right? So how not to feel that first impression?
As I said, I'm sorry if I'm being very straightforward. This should not happen, because the rule of thumb is you got to be ready for it in terms of when you're about to apply for the job. You should already do some research to know about the job itself, to know about the industry, so that in the event that you do get a call from the HR, you already have some answers ready to answers, right? Because if you are in a job search process, to me is, one of the benchmark is within 24 hours you should be able to produce your latest resume, right? Because you are in the job search process. I can understand if you are employed and you're looking for a job, so you may not have the time, but still, if you are serious about looking for a job, if you really feel that you want to move on, then the onus is on you to be prepared so that you can be ever ready. And
Right. On the topic of being prepared, Lionel, could you share the slide on after good interview slide? Yeah, we have a friend here who asked for it, and maybe you should be able to, share a bit more on that.
I always do not know how to go backwards in the slide. I will try. So backwards, right?
Yes.
In the beginning,
good
right?
Interview slide.
Is it somewhere here? Is it under the closing, or is it under?
After the good interview slide, there's
okay, I get
example
it.
that you share.
Yeah, I know. This one. No, this one. Yeah. Is this the one? I think so. So if this is the one, then yeah. Again, this is just a guide. Please don't, you got to do it based on your situation and based on what happened during the interview. But basically, you start off by apologizing, obviously, because you fumbled. But again, you need to remind them that please don't, because of this instance, rule you out. Because everybody makes
Right.
mistakes.
I think it's
Everybody.
not the slide. Maybe it's the next one.
Is it a thank you note? Because that's the only other one that comes after a bad.
Top question to ask at the end of interview for employers.
But that one is not based on good or bad. Is you need to.
Yeah, I think that's what our friend here needed. So we should be before the bad interview. Sorry.
I don't know which one the gentleman or lady is asking for. Because
we try our best, okay?
We try our best. So if not, you have to wait. You have to wait for this to be uploaded. Or you can make an appointment to see us and we can discuss.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't see the slide that the person would like. Is there any other questions? We can move on.
No, I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's really wonderful to have all of you with us today, and to ask us these questions. And I noticed we have a very a very pool here, people who are applying for the TIFIT program and getting quite anxious about the selection process. Yeah. So I think if you're wondering what's happening next and all that, I would encourage you to revisit our TIFIT website. There's a timeline that's being included in the web page. And for some of us who are like mid-career and going through some interview process, okay, I just want to encourage you that in terms of nailing that right job, right? Really, it's about that synergy and that fit that you have with the hiring firm and the hiring manager. So I think if you ask me, I think this session, what stands out for me is really about that resourcefulness and the flexibility that Lionel shared. And really, it's about you tuning in to what's your best understanding. And every time when you go for interviews, see it as an opportunity for you to deepen your understanding about what is it like. It can be for the same role like compliance manager, okay, and you are trying to apply for compliance advisory or something like that. It's slightly different, and you can do your best preparation and prepare for the best questions and answers. So do not really beat yourself up, even if it's not. I know it's very, very hard because you really want it, but I think it's really keep the faith that you will meet a hiring manager who are willing to give you a chance to give you this growth opportunity to pivot into other spectrums. Say you're someone from compliance or you're someone from marketing, but and marketing is such a big spectrum, right? So it's really to keep the faith and that you will meet someone who will value what you can bring to the table. Yeah. Any final advice, Lionel?
My final advice is very close to what you said, Shirley. I think I can understand job search could be a very, very stressful and sometimes could be a very lonely journey. It's always good to find some support, and the support could be, your loved ones. Your support could be one of the career advisor here. Your support could be a hobby that you pick up so that you can help you to de-stress. Because it's very important that in order to be ever ready, as I keep saying, you need to have very good support. One of the ways to do well is to have a very good support system, whereby you know that there are people that you can count on, people that will definitely give you the full support and the full encouragement. So one
So
of the so one of the ways is perhaps you get a career advisor that can walk this journey together with you. If not, if you feel that you could do your own research and do well on your own, but I would still suggest that you at least, find a close friend or, your spouse or your best friend to give you the support. Because looking for a job is really it's not easy. It's especially if you are employed, or worse even when you are unemployed, because then as each day pass, you may get a sense of helplessness, a sense of loss. And if you don't have a good support system, you cannot get out of this vicious cycle.
But I think it's like not all, like really down day and all that, but I think it's definitely a journey of getting to know yourself a bit better
Yeah,
during this
it could
transition,
be
I
an
think, right?
opportunity for really to get
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
to get
and
to know
I
yourself
think
better.
a lot of time our conversations with our candidates is really about them, having that conversation with us to just get to know themselves a little bit more, where while they are busy, climbing the corporate ladder in their banking career and all that, they never really got a chance to have that conversation. And that gift is something that you can give to yourself. So I have a question here, like, are
Huh?
IBF
Okay.
sessions online? Are our sessions all online?
Sorry, I didn't catch you.
Are all our sessions online?
Yes, right now all our coaching sessions are online till further notice.
Yes,
Right
still
now,
notice exactly. Yeah, and
it's
can
all online right now.
yes,
I mean,
yes, yes. So
after all, there's a new variant, so
yes, exactly. And I really like what Lionel mentioned about, it's not just something, it's not just it can be a challenging journey, not just for people who are unemployed. Actually, people who are employed and who are trying to plan for a career pivot. In fact, it feels, I remember one of my candidates tell me, it feels like I'm having 3 jobs. And which is true, because
this is
she
true.
was
Yeah.
she was busy with her full-time banking job, took some course, and then thought that, oh, okay, now I can focus on preparing my resume. And then she realized that, wow, it's another new lessons altogether. So it's not that it cannot be done, but it's more of a medium to long shot game. Unless you really have a close friend like Lionel, example, right? Just imagine Lionel works in XX firm, right? And I'm just in that role. And then Lionel works with me and he can refer, oh, that's probably a shorter route. But how many people have that kind of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your friends probably are there, but what are the chances? So, but I think it's important to start early. Whether you're like someone asked, I want to do a career switch, data analyst in e-commerce. Sorry, ours is financial sector, not e-commerce. You will probably need to, maybe check out WSG. They are more generalist career center. IBF is more focused on financial sector, and we do have such conversations with our candidate as well. And it requires, if you are open to have such a conversation, we are happy to have
Yeah,
you
we're happy to
reach
see
out
you.
for an
But
appointment. Yeah.
just to remind you that we are from the financial sector. So
Yes.
so it,
Yeah. Yeah.
in principle we can help, but we can only do so much because we are not in the e-commerce
Yes, yes.
area.
It's like taking a pulse with your TCM doctor kind of thing from time to time once a year. So we do have candidates who come to us like, to see us once a year kind of thing, just to check in. Hey, I want to look at pivoting to this area. What's your thoughts? Or I'm really getting this, what should I do further? Or yeah, I want to do this, what do you think? Or they just want to air their thoughts with us sometimes. So
Okay.
we welcome you, and I think we've come to the end, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't want to take up the time of those others who. Thank you for staying to the end, anyways, and
yeah,
listening to us.
yeah. Both of us talking all the time.
Yeah, we hope we can see you in a one-to-one session, perhaps. And yeah, all the best to what
All the
you're
best
doing.
in your interviews. We
Yeah,
hope this will help
yeah. I hope this
you
really
to have
helped you. Yeah,
more
thank you.
confidence in your application. Take
Yeah,
care. All
thank
right.
you. Take care.
Nice evening ahead.
Yeah, bye bye.